January 26th, 2013, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver checks into a hotel. In downtown Los Angeles, she has a Tumblr blog where she writes about books, travel, loneliness, and the quiet sadness of being young and trying to figure out who you are. She posts photos of coffee shops, bookstores, empty streets at night. She writes honestly about living with bipolar disorder, not because she wanted attention, but because pretending everything was fine felt more exhausting than telling the truth. Her name was Elisa Lam. She was traveling alone along the West Coast, San Diego, Los Angeles, then Santa Cruz, a student adventure, the kind of trip people take when they want to feel free. For a little while, the kind of trip that feels like the beginning of adulthood. She chose the Cecil Hotel because it was one of the few places she could afford. She had no idea what that building had already survived. The Cecil Hotel opened in 1927 in downtown Los Angeles, only a block away from Skid Row at first. It was meant to be elegant, wealthy travelers, businessmen, expensive interiors, a glamorous hotel in the heart of the city. But Los Angeles changed, and eventually, so did the Cecil. Over the decades, the hotel became linked to violence, addiction, disappearances, overdoses, suicides, and death. People jumped from its windows. Some died alone in the rooms. Others were murdered. By the time Elisa arrived in 2013, the Cecil Hotel already carried a reputation that felt almost cursed. In 1985, serial killer Richard Ramirez, later known as the Night Stalker, lived there while terrorizing California. He would return to the hotel after his attacks, walk through the lobby unnoticed, wash blood from his clothes, and go to sleep, as if nothing had happened. Years later, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger also stayed there. While murdering women in Los Angeles, he had specifically chosen the Cecil because of its dark reputation. The hotel eventually tried to distance itself from its past by changing its branding to Stay on Main. But changing the name of a place does not erase what happened inside it. Elisa checked in. On January 26th, she called her parents. Every day, that was the arrangement. No matter where she was, she would call home. So her family knew she was safe. 5 days later, on January 31st, the calls stopped. At first, her parents thought maybe her phone battery had died. Then hours passed, then an entire day. Soon, panic replaced confusion. Shortly after checking in, hotel staff moved Elisa from a shared room into a private one. The explanation given was vague, odd behavior around her roommates. Nobody ever clearly explained what that behavior actually was. Then came the elevator footage, 2 minutes and 15 seconds of surveillance video that would eventually become one of the most analyzed mystery clips in internet history. Elisa steps into the elevator, wearing a red hoodie and dark shorts. She presses several buttons at once. Then she waits. Nothing happens. The elevator doors remain open. She leans forward and carefully looks into the hallway. Left, right, left again. Then she suddenly steps back inside and presses herself tightly against the wall, almost like she is hiding from someone standing just outside the frame. She stands in the doorway and begins making strange movements with her hands, slow, erratic, almost conversational, like she is reacting to someone. The camera cannot see. The elevator doors still refuse to close. Then Elisa walks away, down the hallway, and disappears. That was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. When her parents realized something was seriously wrong, they contacted the LAPT. Police searched the hotel. K9 units checked hallways and rooms. Investigators reviewed surveillance footage, but they found almost nothing. No sign of Elisa. Leaving the building for 19 days, Elisa Lam was simply gone. And then something inside the hotel started going wrong. Guests began complaining about the water, low water pressure, dark-colored water coming from the taps. Some said it tasted strange, others said it smelled terrible. One guest later described the water as black. Still, people continued drinking it, showering in it, brushing their teeth with it. On February 19th, a maintenance worker named Santiago Lopez climbed onto the hotel roof to inspect the water tanks. There were 4 large tanks supplying water to the entire building. He opened one of the heavy metal hatches. Inside was Elisa Lam, floating face up in the water, unclothed. Her clothes, watch, room key, and personal belongings were inside the tank. With her, for 19 days, hotel guests had been drinking and bathing in that water. The discovery horrified the country. The coroner eventually ruled her death an accidental drowning. Her bipolar disorder was listed as a significant contributing factor. Investigators believe she may have been experiencing a manic episode with psychosis. Officially, the case was closed, but the questions never were. Accessing the roof of the Cecil Hotel was not simple. 3 external fire escapes and 1 rooftop door connected to an alarm system. According to hotel staff, that alarm never went off. No footage ever showed Elisa using the fire escapes, and many people questioned how the heavy lid ended up closed after she entered. After the elevator footage was released publicly, millions of people watched the clip. Over and over again, they slowed it down, frame by frame, zoomed in on shadows, analyzed her body language, every glance, every movement, every second. The elevator doors refused to close. Some people became convinced Elisa was playing something known online as the elevator game, a paranormal ritual where pressing specific buttons in a certain order supposedly allows someone to enter another dimension. Others believe she was being followed by someone standing just outside the camera frame. One internet theory targeted a musician named Morbid. Strangers online convinced themselves he was responsible. They harassed him relentlessly, sent death threats, published his personal information online, destroyed his reputation. There was only one problem: he was in Mexico. When Elisa died, he had absolutely nothing to do with the case, and Elisa Lam was still dead. Shortly after Elisa's body was discovered, a tuberculosis outbreak was reported near the Cecil Hotel. The laboratory test used to detect that strain was called LAM-ELISA, the same 2 words, reversed. Nobody has ever explained that coincidence. Nobody can. Elisa Lam came to Los Angeles looking for freedom, or maybe just distance from the weight of her own thoughts. On her blog, She wrote about wanting to feel okay, about trying to become someone stronger than her fears, about trying. Anyway, she was only 21 years old. She had her entire future ahead of her. And then she was found inside a rooftop water tank on one of the most infamous hotels in America. Her death was ruled accidental. Her case was closed, but there is something deeply unsettling about closed cases and closed lids and locked rooftop doors connected to alarms that supposedly never went off. Sometimes the questions outlive the answers, and Elisa Lam's questions have outlived almost everything. Before you scroll, stop for a second, not to like the video. Not yet, just answer this. Do you believe Elisa Lam's death was truly an accident, or does something about this case still feel wrong to you? Because more than a decade later, millions of people still cannot explain what happened inside the Cecil Hotel. Subscribe to Rulik Enigmas and turn on the bell. Here, we do not just revisit famous mysteries, we talk about the details. People cannot forget the questions nobody could answer, and the stories that still refuse to stay buried. Elisa Lam deserved better than the headlines, better than the conspiracy theories, and better than the way the internet turned her tragedy into entertainment.